Today, as the chair of the Congressional Executive Commission on China, I am proud to announce the release of the Commission's 2020 annual report on human rights and the rule of law in China. I would like to thank Co-Chairman Marco Rubio for his partnership and all the members of the China Commission who contributed to this annual report and the work of the Commission. It has truly been a bipartisan effort, and I am proud to say it was adopted by a unanimous vote. Our unity on human rights in China sends a strong message to the Chinese government and to the world. I'm also proud to recognize the expert staff of the China Commission for their excellent research and advocacy for human rights and the rule of law. During the last 2 years, the China Commission has been at the forefront in generating groundbreaking reporting and driving the strongest China human rights legislation of the last 2 decades, including the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act, that was signed into law and focuses State Department resources and attention on the mass internment of Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslim minorities in China, including through identifying and sanctioning those responsible for such abuses. The Tibetan Policy and Support Act that was signed into law as part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. The legislation updates and strengthens the Tibetan Policy Act of 2002 to address emerging human rights, religious freedom, and environmental challenges faced by the Tibetan people. The Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act, which sanctions Hong Kong and Chinese government officials responsible for the imposition of recent national security legislation, the undermining of Hong Kong's autonomy, and violating the rights of the people of Hong Kong. The Protect Hong Kong Act, which prohibits sales of police and crowd control equipment to Hong Kong, and the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which addresses the systematic and widespread use of forced labor in Xinjiang. While the legislation passed in the House last year, it was not considered in the Senate. This will be a top priority for us in this new Congress. In addition, we have written the administration with specific policy recommendations, and we have advocated for political or religious prisoners, including through the Commission's Political Prisoner Database. Today, we are releasing the 2020 annual report that includes comprehensive findings and recommendations, including a separate executive summary that complements the more detailed annual report. The Commission has found that over the last year, the Chinese government has taken unprecedented steps to extend its repressive policies through censorship, intimidation, and the detention of people in China for exercising their fundamental human rights. Nowhere is this more evident than in Xinjiang, where new evidence emerged that crimes against humanity and possibly genocide are occurring, and in Hong Kong, where the one country, two systems framework has been totally dismantled. The Chinese government continues to violate international human rights standards, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights that it ratified in 2002, and its own constitution. Further, the Chinese government has abandoned any pretense of adhering to the legally binding commitments it made to the international community when it signed the 1984 Sino-British Joint Declaration on the Future of Hong Kong. In Tibet, there is no dialogue for a peaceful settlement. Access is almost impossible, and the Chinese government continues to violate religious freedom, including by claiming that only the government has the authority to select a future 15th Dalai Lama. In recent years, the Commission has become increasingly concerned that the Chinese government has expanded its human rights violations around the world, even reaching the American people. We are pleased that this year the annual report includes a new chapter on the Chinese government's human rights violations in the United States and globally, along with a new set of policy recommendations. The annual report also contains many detailed recommendations for the U.S. Congress and the incoming Biden administration, including passing and signing into law the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Bill in order to stop goods made with forced labor from entering U.S. markets, issuing a formal determination on whether atrocity crimes, including crimes against humanity and genocide, are occurring in Xinjiang, employing global Magnitsky Act and other sanctions to hold responsible Chinese officials complicit in serious human rights abuses, offering humanitarian parole to Hong Kong pro-democracy leaders needing urgent protection, and working to find a permanent solution to allow a pathway to legally enter the United States. Implementing the Tibetan Policy and Support Act, including appointing a high-level special coordinator for Tibet, building an international coalition to protect Tibetan human rights, and making it clear that any interference in the selection of Tibetan religious leaders will result in targeted sanctions. Making it clear that the U.S. government differentiates between the policies of the Chinese government and the people of China. Poorly designed and communicated messaging can result in intolerance and harassment of Chinese and Asian Americans. All U.S. officials must be clear that we stand for human rights and against any racism or bigotry in any form, and advocating for political and religious prisoners in China. We know that when specific cases are raised publicly, it can result in improved treatment and better conditions. The annual report includes numerous cases of political and religious detention, and we are emphasizing 16 cases that are representative of those detained and sentenced for peacefully exercising their internationally recognized human rights. Everyone deserves a government that respects their human rights, their culture, and their hopes and dreams for a better life. I'm proud of the work of the China Commission, and I look forward to working with my colleagues and the administration on promoting the issues and policies we have raised today. So thank you so much for your attention to this important report.